evening, as we all prepare to get started, are you okay with me giving a little bit of a greeting and getting that on out the way and introducing board members and then turning it over to you?
That'll be great. You go ahead and do that. Then I'll give a few background rules and thoughts, and then I'll turn it over to Ms. Sharp for her to facilitate tonight.
All right, that sounds great. Okay, so with that, first of all, if there are any board members that are on the screen or call, we want to turn it over to you so you can give a welcome and introduce yourself. Are there any board members with us this evening? All right, we have been so fortunate in having board members at every one of the sessions thus far, so I believe they have heard quite a bit of feedback since this is day number 3, I believe, of our feedback sessions. I'm Dr. Anderson, the superintendent, for those that I haven't met. Some of you, I've seen you in some other feedback sessions, and I will share with you the purpose of this is to gather input as we continue to tailor our plan. We anticipate on Friday, we will hear from KSDE regarding what guidelines and guidance they're going to be given. The goal is to give us as many options as possible. So I asked for our DCAC team to facilitate this dialogue and for our staff to just really listen to what things you'd like to see, what concerns you have. Please know answers in this session aren't being given. We're listening to your feedback and getting as much as we can, and then we're adding it to a frequently asked question document. In some cases, we may answer a few questions, but for the most part, this is really a listening tour. So with that in mind, thank you for being willing to share feedback. We're excited to listen to it, and that feedback will go into our plan, which will be public by Monday. KSDE will issue theirs on Friday. The superintendents from around the county, we're hosting them at a meeting on Friday at Bishop Professional Development Center. So all superintendents in the county will come together, share our ideas, process what we heard, and share the plans that we have that are tentative at this time. And we'll tweak those. And then on Monday, we will be releasing those by Monday evening to families. I will now turn it on over to Mrs. Sharp. I'm going to ask one more time, are there any board members that are on the call? All right, since I, again, don't hear any board members, we want to thank our DCAC for taking this on for multiple nights, and I'll turn it over to our Director of Early Childhood, and I'm sorry, actually, I'm turning it back over to Mr. Guile, who will take it from there.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. So everyone, thank you on behalf of the District Citizens Advisory Council for taking the time to join us on this 3rd session. What we're looking for, we are going to ask everyone to please keep their comments positive and forward-looking what we've got coming up as you ask your questions. We also would ask that you limit your comments to 1 minute to allow us to get as many people as possible through tonight. You can either raise your hand in the Zoom, or if you want to chat question or whatever your question is into the chat window, we'll make sure that that gets put out there and that feedback is given. And I think I'm going to give Selena one last opportunity to reach out to our Spanish speakers, and then we'll turn it over to Mrs. Sharp from there. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Quiero recordar nuevamente, si hay alguna persona que preferiría escuchar esta sesión en español o dar sus opiniones en español, si presiona el chat al pie de la pantalla, puede escribir Spanish o español, todo en letras mayúsculas, y entonces vamos a ir a otra reunión separada de esta reunión en inglés. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. As Dr. Anderson mentioned, I am Sarah Sharp, the General Director of Early Childhood and Elementary Education for Topeka Public Schools. And I am excited to spend some time with you this evening. We're going to propose some different questions and scenarios to you this evening to receive some feedback from you. As Dr. Anderson mentioned, we're not quite ready to roll out our plans as we're still waiting to hear from the Kansas State Department of Education and the Shawnee County Health Office. So tonight is purely an opportunity for all of us to hear from you. Again, if you can try to keep your responses to around a minute or so, that will give all of our participants hopefully a chance to respond. Our first question tonight is TPS may delay all in-person classes for 60 days or approximately until October and do only remote learning during this time. Please indicate your comfort level with this approach. So this would be delayed in-person classes. So again, if you'll just use the little participant icon to raise your hand or signal in the chat, and we will help get you unmuted so you can share. Okay.
Barbara, go ahead and ask your question.
I was a teacher for 44 years for Topeka, and I've been on a lot of committees. I just want to suggest something, and that is that you find out how many families are comfortable with online learning and let them continue to do that so that you have smaller number of kids coming in, and that the first week you have all of the kids stay in the same room together and the teachers move from room to room, and then you move the kids around in the same group. Maybe you do that for 2 weeks or something to find out who's contagious. But I just wanted to say that thing. There are some people that really benefit from online or really enjoying it, and you might want to find out who that is, and that would cut your population down to some extent. That's it.
Thank you for your feedback, Barbara, and also thank you for your years of service to Topeka Public Schools.
It looks like Andrea, let's see if we can't get you unmuted. There you go. Andrea, you should be good to go now.
I just agree that, you know, protecting kids and with the virus going on, I worked with pediatrics, and it's not a good thing to see. For us parents, a lot of times get work when they're sick, especially with hospitals not, you know, certain number one. It's kind of hard for a parent, and it's also kind of hard for those that are, you know, have big families. You know, they got to protect everybody. Especially in the workplace for us essential workers, it's a lot harder. So I just kind of agree that, you know, we need to do what we can for the kids, and that's all what we're doing as parents, teachers, and educators. And pretty much that's all I have.
Thank you, Andrea. We appreciate your feedback. I've seen some good and thoughtful comments also coming through in the chat. We appreciate that. We'll go ahead and get those recorded this evening.
I have had one here that came in privately to me, just talking about the importance of making sure that the students with IEPs get the appropriate support if it's virtual. So it looks like we've got James, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if we can get him.
I think I've got unmuted. All right.
Is that me? Can I go now?
Yes, that's you.
Okay, my name's really Virginia. That's my husband.
Hi.
But our issue, like, we're totally, between my husband and I, we have enough internet and devices, and between us, we understand the material, and I feel like we could help our son. Just the issue is, it was such a battle to get him to do the online learning in the spring. It was not going to anybody. There was a lot of tension in our house, and I finally just gave up. I was like, this isn't worth it. And so probably the last month we didn't even try, because you don't understand. It was a huge battle. And then I'm also concerned, like, if we do start until October, will there be the option, because we also have a preschooler and a kindergartner. If we don't want them to participate in the online learning, will they be penalized in any way if they just go to school in October? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. And we will definitely take that into consideration as we are finalizing our plans and have information to share with you early next week.
It's a battle for my kids as well.
Okay. If there is no one else with a hand raised for this question, we will move on.
Looks like
Sue,
we've got
I see
one
you.
more.
Yep.
Reynolds.
Yes, apologize. I came in slightly late and I'm not sure if I'm asking about the right question here. It was just relayed from my daughter, who is a freshman going into sophomore this year at Topeka West, and wondered if online school is still being done in tandem with in-person classes. She was wanting to find out if they can get any idea whether students who learn online would still be interacting with their normal school teachers, like if they would continue to interact and have classes with TWHS staff, or if it would be just a generalized course that would be with someone in TPS and not necessarily at their school. So it was just one thing to pass along.
Okay, great. We've made note of that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sue, I've seen your hand raised and I've got you unmuted, I think. Hold on, Sue, just a second. You're still muted. There.
Okay. I have a grandson who went to high school here last year. He still will be this year. And it was like the lady said, it was really horrible trying to get him into this online. And he's a very smart student and he does great. So I'm hoping that there is a place where he can go to school physically and get that help that he needs. And then what about the parents who would have, maybe both parents work, or there's a one parent family? What about them? How can we help those families so that they don't miss out on work while while their kids, if they have to go online again? Those were my questions.
Okay, thank you, Sue. All right, we are going to move on to our next question. TPS will provide a mask for all staff and students to be used at school. Staff and students are required to wear masks during times when appropriate distancing is not possible. How comfortable are you with this expectation for yourself or your child if it were implemented during the school year? All right, I see Barbara. Okay, Barbara, you are unmuted.
I'm sorry, I've never done this before. I thought I did the clap thing, and I was just going to say, I don't have a problem with that. That makes all the sense in the world. So there you go.
Thank you, Barbara.
All right, we also have Kara H. and Carrie both have sent something through on the chat with a question. So I'll let you decide which one you want to go to first there.
All right, Kara, do you see Kara? I'm looking for you so I can unmute you.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. My concern, I guess, would be for the children who are too young or not really at a cognitive age to understand mask wearing. My son's in preschool and he just doesn't really get it. He thinks it's this weird thing I'm shoving on his face and he won't wear them at all. We are working on practice play and trying to get him to understand like it's a fun thing and try to make it a thing he wants to do. But in a sense, he has Down syndrome and he's 3. So I don't know how I'm going to get him to leave a mask on all day long to get to go to school.
That's my kid.
And will he be like penalized to not be allowed to go to school if he can't wear it? Hi, Spoons.
Thank you, Kara, for sharing that concern. Sounds like you've already done and tried some amazing things, but we appreciate your feedback. All right. Mr. Guile, did you have someone else that was ready as well?
Yes, we have Heather Booth had a comment for us. Let me see if I can't get her unmuted.
Yeah, sorry
All right.
about that. I was unmuted a little early. But hi, Kara. My concern is with the masks. For a lot of our kiddos, like that is definitely something that is going to be helpful. But looking at the plan or the questionnaire that you guys had put out, I think it covered a lot of different bases. But when we're looking at the approach to COVID-19 and returning to school, you know, a lot of these things that you're looking at implementing should all be done within conjunction with one another. So I do have concerns about if a student in a classroom is tests positive or a teacher tests positive, is our district developing or has developed a plan on what is going to happen when that occurs, because it will likely happen. So yeah, that's my question and thought for now. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Booth, we appreciate that.
Next, let's go. We've got Carrie has her hand up.
Yeah, I just got a question about your other one. What if if you guys do go back to online schooling, how are you guys going to actually do with the kids that have the IEPs?
I think that's a really
Carrie.
great question, Carrie. It's one that we've had a number of people ask, so we'll make sure that that one gets on the list for the district. All right. Next one is Shelley. Let's find Shelley.
And I see Katie also has her hand raised. So she'll go after Shelley. Were you able to get Carrie unmuted?
Oh, sorry, no.
Sorry, I was hunting for her.
We got Carrie. It's Shelley we've got now.
Did you get her?
I did not.
Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to skip to Katie's iPhone real quick.
Hi guys. Okay, so my question is kind of twofold, and I know part of it's already been addressed or brought up to be brought to the district, and that is my son is 16, and he has shown from last semester that he was not successful at all with the online learning. He has an IEP, he has autism, and that also goes along with the math question. We're working with him currently on being able to tolerate a mask, but with his sensory problems with autism, we do struggle significantly with that. But he definitely needs to have in-person education because he does not connect at all when it's virtual. So that was a question I had about that for the kids with autism or any sensory disorders.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Katie. We appreciate your feedback. I did see a few more hands. I've got Amanda. All right, Amanda, you are unmuted. All right, Amanda, now try it.
Is my audio coming through?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, so just speaking for my own family, I feel like my son would be fine doing virtual schooling, but just showing concern for other families. I'm just wondering If the school district has explored the option of only letting like certain students, like students with special needs and IEP, to enter the building like after being screened and having their temperatures taken, or even like if students who don't necessarily have those plans but are struggling with certain things, if the buildings were to stay closed, would it all be possible for teachers and parents to set up appointments for kids who might need a little one-on-one in-person time with their teachers? I don't know what sort of resources the school district has available, or how they're doing with staffing. I'm sure the staff is feeling a little overwhelmed with all this, but that's just the kind of concern that I have, because if my son is going to enter kindergarten, this is going to be all new to us. So my concern would be if my son did need like in-person time and the buildings do stay closed, would he be able to see his teachers in person if need be? That's really the concerns that I have at this time regarding this upcoming school year.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing, Amanda. I think for the sake of time that we should move on to our next question so that we're able to make it through our agenda this evening. The next scenario is TPS may conduct temperature checks or health screenings for students and staff who come on campus per county guidelines. How comfortable are you with this? And that would be daily temperature checks. Again, kind of raise those hands or mention it in the chat. I already see feedback.
Yeah, lots of people are saying that they're pretty comfortable with the idea of temperature checks. It looks like Emily has her hand up.
Okay. All right, Emily, I think you are unmuted.
Hi, my question is I'm totally comfortable with temperature checks and masks. It's happening when you go to the doctor. It's happening pretty much everywhere except for like the grocery store and retail places. But my question is if we are taking temperatures and we're only opening buildings at 8:10, especially for elementary school, so that's what I can speak to. How are we going to be able to get everyone in and to either their classroom or their designated location, you know, if there's a backup, or how will that work? Has it been considered even opening the buildings earlier so that parents who don't want to send their kids or can't send their children on the bus but still need to be to school at 8 a.m. or need to be to work at 8 would be able to still kind of get their kids in and do the proper everything? So that's it, just building openings.
Okay, thank you, Emily.
Looks like we got 3 others up there. Bri Smith, maybe?
Okay. Looking for her. All right. Okay, Bri, I think you're unmuted.
Okay. I think one of my main questions would be, of course, temperature checks are definitely okay. I've just from where I'm working now, I've seen a couple cases come in where they have no symptoms at all and they still test positive. I think, and I have younger kids, so it'll be hard for them to keep their mask on every day. They kind of struggle with this, so I don't even take them out to the store with me. I guess I'm kind of struggling to see how, if they were, let's say, allowed to go back to school, how they would be supervised. There's so many, especially to keep the distance and the mask.
Thank you for that feedback. We really appreciate it.
Okay, I see L. Reynolds' hand is raised. And you should be unmuted.
Okay, yep. Just briefly, kind of related to a couple other comments I saw and things people have voiced, is that I also am, I think we're perfectly comfortable with temperature checks. I don't think that's any problem as far as taking the child's temperature at school. I guess my concern is that putting in place kind of a false sense of security that that actually provides some coverage and determination of, you know, whether they're contagious and or infected or not, because it really doesn't do that much to tell us. It would tell us in a most severe case. But I guess my question is, what other activities might they consider and what else is being considered to screen? And that's of course knowing that there is no, you know, rapid on-site test we have access to as of today, but just to see what other things they might be able to put in place and, you know, contact tracing, anything else that might go along with it. So the only reason I might be uncomfortable is if it gives us this false sense of security that that actually determines whether someone has COVID, because it does not.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. All right. Oh, I see Megan Shepherd.
Yeah, this kind of goes along with the thermometers and masks. I mean, is the school going to have enough access to these things, and also sanitizer and disinfectant, you know, and you think about how long is it going to take the kids to get their temperatures checked? And in the schools, most teachers have trouble making sure kids have a pencil when they come into class. And so you're going to be monitoring these kids to put on their mask, how much productive learning is actually going to get done, versus if we were to just stay online, it would be safer, and you know, teachers and staff wouldn't be putting themselves at risk. Just something to think about. You know, I feel like we need to weigh the reward versus risk for everyone, especially the teachers, because I think it's very important to, you know, put them, I know that they already have enough issues with supplies and everything. We need to make sure that they're well taken care of along with our kids, and that they're comfortable going into this and doing all of these things for our children.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, we've got that. Let's go to Whitney Harper. She sent me a message that she'd like to speak. Let me unmute you, Whitney. There you go, Whitney. You're good to go now.
Hi, thanks. I totally agree with masks and temperature checking and everything else like that. And I think it's a great idea. For some of us, it is not an option to keep our children at home. There are single parent households that need to have their children go to an actual school. I really agree with the comment about will there be choices of, you know, some people can go to school. For those that can have their children choose to stay at home, can we do that? My big question, which would go with a couple other people's comments, would be if we have a temperature issue with some children, what are going to be like requirements for them going home or being able to come back to school? Testing, I'm not aware right now if it is still like free. Will they be tested at school? Will they be required to go somewhere? I know that the VA does have 45-minute rapid tests. Is that something we are able to access and use? Because that could tell us right away, you know, if a kid and the rest of their classroom, even if they do have that. And so that would possibly prevent shutting down an entire classroom, an entire wing of a school, or an entire school, just for one case. So I'd like that to be investigated and thought about. I know we don't have an answer right now, but I really support us going back to school. And of course I care about everyone's lives. It's just something that we're going to have to find a way to get with, to figure it out for everyone's benefit, not just children, not just teachers, but families as well.
Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you. I've got one more on the list to me. We'll go ahead and go to Lisa, and then I think everybody else has got hands up that you can see. So.
Hi. I would go and clear back to the very first question. I was wondering about, have you thought of doing more of like a college type layout where not all students go on the same day, but maybe you have freshmen or certain classes go on Monday, do more of a all block schedule and a combination of that and online learning? I know my son personally never went to a Zoom class one. He's like a baby. He's got his days and nights mixed up and has since they were let out of school. He refuses to go to them. He doesn't like them. But I mean, he gets good grades. He still made honor roll beside, you know, all of that. But I just know that the online wasn't for us. He has no problem wearing a mask, and I have no problem with temperature checks or anything, but I was just curious if you guys had thought along those type of lines where you could do a combination of the two.
Yeah, Lisa, that's a great comment, and we actually have a question on that we're going to get here in just a couple of minutes. That you'll be a great segue. I think we got two more hands, and then we can move on to that question. I think that's the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yo, what the heck?
Carrie, you are up.
Yeah, I got the temperature and the mask is fine for me for my kids, but where's the child does with the school buses? How would they do it for the temperature check?
Okay, thank you for that question. Okay, I am looking to see if there are any other hands up.
Yeah, we've got John Wagner. Let's see here.
Okay, I also see Colleen. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, John, you're good to go.
All right. There's been a few comments already along my lines of thinking. First off, I want to thank everyone who's working hard trying to get our education for our youngsters going again. I do kind of feel like the overall government's pushing this a little fast because a lot of it doesn't seem very practical. We're coming up with a lot of really risky sort of scenarios here, such as the buses that was just mentioned, temperature check, hold up, testing, etc., or children not wanting to comply with it. Like my son is on the spectrum. He does not like to wear a mask, but he also requires like hand over hand learning. So it's actually kind of like a catch-22 in our scenario. I don't see how online learning would help. I do like the concept of block scheduling, or, you know, maybe, I don't know, teachers reaching out on an individual basis to try to, you know, get, you know, specific education or specific lessons to a child. I really, again, I want to say thank you and, you know, just express my gratitude that everyone is trying to get us back in motion. But, you know, on a large scale, I'm concerned. I don't know how, especially in my little one's case, I'm just kind of concerned, you know.
Okay, thank you, John. We appreciate your kind words and you also sharing your concern with us. Okay, I saw one more hand, I believe. Colleen, you are unmuted.
Hi, my question is this. I wanted to know if there would be an option to see if they could, if you wanted to send your kid to school, you could, but if you wanted to also do online, they could do that as well. So that was my option. Just with this COVID, you know, everything's going on, it just really has impacted my family. So I'm like, I just, of course, wanting to keep everyone safe. but I just didn't know if that could be an option as well as online. Because it was a struggle for one of my kids, but the other kid just excelled at it better than she did at school.
Okay, and that is a perfect segue into our next question. We have a couple of different scenarios that we would like some feedback on. Our scenario A would be 100% of students on campus with distancing requirements, and how you might feel about that. Scenario B is 50% of students would be on campus with distancing, while the other 50% were at home doing remote learning, and then those groups would switch. Like you'd have a group A and a group B, so 50% of the kids could be on campus at one time. Scenario C is students primarily in distance learning with only small groups of students on campus. And scenario D would be 100% distance learning, all students off campus. So if you'd just like to provide some feedback around those different scenarios. And I see Katie's iPhone. You are ready to go, Katie.
Okay, so I'm a firm believer of not doing all or none on anything. I think that it definitely needs to be evaluated on, and parents should absolutely be given the option. Because I know some parents are very concerned about sending their kids to, back to in-person school, but then others of us know that our kids can't learn virtually. So I would definitely say, that a percentage needs to. I would hope a percentage is allowed to be on campus, but then those who do not want to send their kids to school and whose kids do successfully virtually be allowed to, complete their education online. But those of us who need to send our kids to school are allowed to.
Okay. Thank you, Katie. All right, I see Diane. All right, Diane, you are unmuted. Diane? Okay. We will keep moving. Risa. Okay, Risa.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, honestly, I think that I agree with a couple of the other parents. We should have the option to be able to keep our kids home or to send them to school. I think the kids who have IEPs and that need the extra help should be allowed to have that help without all the other kids and all the other problems with trying to keep the masks on and having to do all the sanitization and just all the cleaning. I just think it's a little too much, and I think it puts a lot on the teachers when they're already dealing with trying to keep kids in check, trying to teach them, then now they have to worry about all the masks. I think it's kind of crazy and putting too much on the teachers. Also, as a parent, I'm concerned. My daughter is 14 years old. I don't think she's gonna just run around and keep that mask on all day. I don't want her maybe getting infected by an asymptomatic person. So I just agree with it should be an option for us to be able to keep our kids home or not. My daughter does great online, and I would just like to keep it that way. That way I know she's safe at all times.
Okay, thank you so much for that. All right, John Wagner.
Yeah, again, I'm agreeing with the having choice or having an adaptive sort of plan. I think that would be kind of the best option for those who need it, because this is something that's bigger than what we're handling in just the city or county level. If we look back in history, I mean, this is history right now. This is a major turn of events for our entire world, and how we move through it is going to be very important. So, I mean, yeah, our overall education may be slowing down for, you know, these generations, but any education is better than none. And any education is also better than, you know, also just risking everyone's lives, because again, symptoms don't show up right away too. So they're not just risking each other. I mean, they risk bringing it back home and disrupting everything, you know. It's kind of, again, we're in a crazy point in time in history. So I feel like, you know, being more open-minded and, you know, trying to take things on a careful and case-by-case basis is a much more approachable outlook. So I do agree with the choice in the adaptation and these education plans.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, Kara H.
Okay. A lot of people have already kind of commented on, you know, the choice, which I think is great. Like parents who really are just like, I don't want an option, I want to stay home. I think that's great if they want to go ahead and move forward with that. I guess my concern is if only small groups came to school, how would they be structured? Like the decision of who comes what day, how long do they stay? Because I know I am blessed with a flexible work schedule, which is great, but it only goes so far. And there are some people that do not have a flexible schedule option at all. And for kids who can only go to school, you know, 3 hours a week in their small group, then they have to find daycare for the rest of that time. And most places require you to pay for a full week and not just small bits. So that's just my concern, is the structure of the small groups. Will they be consistent, and how is it decided who goes in and who doesn't? I am in favor of small groups for children on IEPs to get those like therapy social needs met, even if it can only be 2 or 3 kids and a staff at one time, you know, with all the precautions and everything. So that is one of my ideas.
Okay, thank you, Kara.
Yep.
Okay, Sean, did you see? Oh, I see Deborah.
Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I wanted to echo a lot of the words of a lot of people about this monumental task before you. I don't envy you at all. We appreciate all the work that's going to go into this. We have a daughter in middle school. She's a great student. She really did not struggle much with the online learning. She struggled with losing the social aspect of school. And that was really hard on her. That being said, we know that we're going to need to move forward as safely as possible with whatever plan gets put in place. We just want to, what we'd like to make sure is happening is whatever plan is put in place, it's a strong plan. It's a plan that's going to challenge the students. She ended up at the end of the year not being very challenged. There were times where in her Zoom classes, the teachers were just chatting about anything, things that didn't really even pertain to learning or whatever was going on. So we're open to whatever scenario looks the best. We just are hopeful that it's put in place with a lot of thought and good intention of making sure students are going to get a good experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. I saw a question in the chat. I'm not able to catch every single question, but I did see a question about the link.
Yeah, it looks like there's a question about whether the survey has closed. I've got a note into Mr. Gowan to get us an answer on that one.
Okay, thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. All right, I'm looking.
So it looks like
Donna.
you got, yeah.
Did you have someone else, Sean?
Nope, you got 2 of them. Donna was one of them.
Okay, thank you. Oh. Okay, Donna.
say I appreciate what the teachers are doing and everybody as administrators are doing. And I do like the way that Scott, our teacher, used the seesaw. I think that was great. My son did good learning through that. I'm sure there's a few things we lack just because who remembers some of the math from then as it goes on. But I think it's great. And I do hear parents talk about, they need to be able to send their kids to school because they don't have alternative care. Another thing to think about for parents, if they have the option, I know it's not offered at everybody's.
Oh, Donna, I think we lost you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you again. You cut out briefly.
So I just wanted to remind parents to inquire about the expanded FMLA that has taken place with all of this. Look into that with their employers because it does give you 12 weeks of leave that you can use during a year.
Okay, thank you, Donna. And Derrick.
Hi.
Hi,
What
Derrick.
I was wanting to find out is, do we know if the online is going to be similar to how it was in the spring, or will it be more structured to where they'll actually be in class for more than an hour or 2 hours at a time, or will they actually be in class for 4 to 6 hours or with breaks or anything like that?
Okay, thank you. Derrick, we definitely got that down. As we hear from KSDE later this week, and then we'll be able to include that in our plan coming out next week.
Yeah, I would tell you, be on the watch next week because you're going to see a lot of information come out next week.
Okay, Barbara.
I just wanted to remind people that when the online started here in Topeka, that was kind of a shock. Friday you were in class, Monday you weren't in class. I teach at Washburn University also, so I had that same kind of thing. My face-to-face class had to automatically turn to an online class, and that's a heck of a shift. Now at least the teachers have that experience behind them and have some opportunity to plan. Well, I won't make that mistake. I just want to say it's a different scenario, so you might find the learning will have more substance online because it won't be such a shock. It won't be a surprise. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Sharp, can we go to Sarah Boast next?
Yes. If you see her, oh, I see her. Hi,
Okay.
Sarah, you should be able to talk.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So other countries have been doing outdoor schooling on campus. Is that something that could be looked at, weather permitting, since the virus is airborne? Students would be able to practice, social distancing with their desks being 6 feet apart, getting makeshift tents, and then even doing so much as a kind of a block schedule where some students would come on, certain days, obviously weather permitting. But if that is being looked at, also because it is airborne, having students inside the schools, what is the cleaning process for the air filtration system, and will windows be opened? Will the filter, how often will the filters be cleaned? Will there be fans blowing so that, you know, if anybody coughs that's not wearing a mask can, you know, escape out the window? So those are just kind of ideas for when it's weather permitting. Obviously not during the winter or when it's snowing or tornado season, but maybe as, you know, as a start. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Looks like we've got 2 more left.
Okay, I see. Virginia, I believe.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We were just wondering if everyone does the online route when we go back in school, what if our kids aren't up to the standard, I guess you should say. I guess we're too concerned that our son is going to lose a grade.
Yeah, if they're left behind, like, are they going to have to make up a grade? Are they going to be half a grade behind? Like, what's the future for that? Because there's no real measurement of what they're getting out of distant learning.
Thank you for sharing. And Mr. Reynolds.
Yeah, you can disregard. I think I put my question in the chat. It was just more of a suggestion about, in conjunction with Google Classroom and some of the tools currently in use, I think intentionally look at some other things that would foster socialization. I mean, in particular, I'm thinking of group chat as one thing that, beyond just checking in once a day on Zoom meetings, I know a lot of the problems that kids had, and even my daughter, who was pretty focused, had, is that feeling of they have one check-in a day and then that's it. They're kind of on their own. You're just kind of in this black hole from there on. And something like Slack, which is a group messaging app or kind of a channel chat where people can subscribe to channels of interest and discuss topics, that is kind of something that makes you feel like there is a room or an office or some environment that everyone is still in and that you're not just isolated on your own. And I think that might just be a good thing for schools to think about, and in particular to see if they might have more frequent check-ins or just some kind of a breakout session to randomly get in a video call with other students and see another face in the middle of the day sometime. So.
Okay, thank you for that suggestion. Okay, we will move on to our last question since we just have a few minutes left in our time today. What is your greatest concern about school starting?
Looks like we've got 2 hands up.
I see Donna.
All right.
Hello.
Yes, Donna.
Hello. Sorry I cut out earlier, but just to go on to the next question that you guys just asked, my greatest concern is somebody coming up positive or asymptomatic and our kids not knowing, because I know with the CDC guidelines is that really nobody can be notified really until there's like a positive. And so just how they're going to handle those kind of things, because I know HIPAA and everything else plays into all of that. And so that's my greatest concern. And I'm one of the parents that is fine with having my child be home. We do miss the socialization. Sorry. And I would say that's my greatest concern at this point, is the unknown.
Okay, thank you, Donna. We'll move to Bri Smith next.
Okay.
Hi, Bri.
Hi. Again, I'm kind of in agreement with, I think, most people. The greatest concern would be, again, it could be an outbreak, the exposure, and then being that now it's coming up with no symptoms, they can easily bring it home, and then there's another spread. And again, my kids, myself, we're all high risk. We all have the same health issue. So I think that's the scariest part for me.
Thank you, Bri. Kara.
I think my greatest concern would just be the consistency. I know it's kind of impossible to have a completely set in stone plan that's going to be awesome and amazing and work for everyone, but just the idea of, being told it's going to be one way, and then we start in 1 week into school, it's like, oh no, this was totally not a great idea, and we all have to change it again. And I know you guys are doing the best you can, and it's awesome that we're even having these meetings to get everyone's feedback. So just being able to kind of have a consistent, like, if this doesn't work, this is our backup. Like, just be prepared for these different things. So maybe parents feel more reassured that there are a couple of different backup ideas and options, so they don't, again, have the whole like, oh no, never mind, we're not going back to school, which can't be helped. But at the same time, I think it would create less outcry if parents knew that there were alternatives to back that up. So that's my piece.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. I have one who sent me a text message, chat message, Ceballos. Let me find you and we will get you unmuted. I found you.
Hello.
All right. Yes.
I have a daughter that teaches second grade. My biggest concern is the teachers. They have so much to deal with now that they cannot be medical professionals. This is just stressing the teachers. If these kids cannot go back to school without the social distancing and without the masks, I'm sorry, but I don't think we should have school starting back up.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
That's just my opinion.
And we appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, Lisa wants to make a comment.
Do you see her, Sean? I'm looking.
I think I found her.
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, provided we will have to do some part of online learning, is it possible that the teachers could do their classes so that they could be looked at on demand, so that you could work around both the child's schedule and the parent's schedule in case the parent needs to be there in order to help their younger child with the lessons? They're not having to worry about their work also, that they could do it of an evening where they could view the classes, or, if children that have jobs, or like in my case where my son doesn't get up in the morning very well, he would be able to do it at a time where he's more awake and would be convenient for him. He'd still get the classes done, but he could watch the class on an on-demand type, a YouTube type video or something like that, where it would be on his schedule as far as viewing it and not having to be up at a certain time to see that or to interact in that classroom.
Okay, thank you for that idea, Lisa.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 more comments, but we have reached our 7 o'clock limit tonight. Anyone else? Okay, I'm not seeing any more hands. On behalf of Topeka Public Schools, I would like to thank everyone for joining this evening. We genuinely are thankful and we appreciate your thoughtful feedback this evening and sharing your concerns so that we can make sure that next week when we are rolling our plan out that we have taken as many of these things as we can into consideration. Sean or Robert, did you all have anything else you'd like to add?
I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their evening. This was our 3rd session with this, and we've heard a lot of great comments. They're going to be very informative, I think, for the district as they adapt to whatever the state plan looks like. And I encourage you to keep reaching out. If you want to become an involved parent, talk to your school principal about District Citizens Advisory Council. We're always looking for additional people. And just thank you all for your time. I do see that we have that Ms. Foley has joined us. She's a Board of Education member. Ms. Foley, if you'd like to say something, if you just want to give me like a thumbs up and we'll unmute you. There you go, you're up.
I just really want to thank all the parents that have given us some great ideas, some great feedback. We're listening to all your voices. This is such an unusual time, a scary time for all of us, and we promise you we're going to do the best that we can for your students, your teaching staff, our community. We know how important education is for our students, and we'll just do the best we can. We promise you that. We just thank you for your input so that we know how our community feels about moving forward. So thank all of you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Foley. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening and please stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.